In this video we're going to talk about how to breathe. Now you probably think you know how to breathe, but if right now you're mouth breathing, then you don't. So in this video I've taken the main points from the following 3 books so you don't have to read them. Breath by James Nestor, The Oxygen Advantage by Patrick McKeown, and the Wim Hof Method by, Wim Hof. So nobody ever teaches us this, and they're simple techniques that, if implemented, will improve your physical and mental state. Number 1, you should be nose breathing most of the time, including during exercise and while you're asleep. There are structures in the nose called turbinates that help direct the airflow and regulate the temperature and humidity of the air we breathe, as well as filtering out particles. So the way that you can make sure you're nose breathing while you're asleep, because obviously you're not conscious of this, is to use 3M micropore tape. You just use a small strip of this across your lips, and I'll demonstrate how you do that. Now there is a company called Hostage Tape, but I think it's not necessary. It's obviously going to be more expensive. A little roll like this, you just use a little strip and it lasts a lot longer. So I don't think Hostage Tape is necessary. But if you go on the Hostage Tape Instagram account, I think they have like clips on the science and stuff. But you just take a little strip. So you take your 3M tape, take a little strip off. Now I put it on the back of my hand. I stick it to the back of my hand a couple of times. Otherwise it will leave sticky residue on your lips and it's just too sticky. So you do that a couple of times and then you just Now the good thing about that is with the Hostage Tape, it's quite a big patch and it covers your whole mouth. But if you're worried about not being able to breathe, you can still mouth breathe through the micropore tape. You can, because it's not covering your whole mouth, you can kind of breathe out of the corners. So if you do feel like a little bit claustrophobic, you can still breathe through the tape. But when you're asleep, it's just going to encourage you to nose breathe. So you use 3M micropore tape for nose breathing at night. Number 2, nose breathing during exercise will regulate exertion and train your aerobic capacity. If you're running, you will only be able to run at the speed at which your nose breathing allows. So at a certain point you'll get to a speed of run where you start really mouth breathing, kind of like panting. Now if every time you get to that point you just mouth breathe, you're not going to train your aerobic capacity. But if you get to the point where you struggle to nose breathe, but stay nose breathing, you're going to push that edge further and further, so that's how it improves your aerobic capacity. Number 3, the optimal tempo for breathing is approximately 5 seconds in and 5 seconds out. I find it interesting as well, whenever I learn things, so these are like new modern scientific books, whenever I learn things, some religion or philosophy from thousands of years ago has already sussed this out. So the Tibetan chant Om Mani Padme Hum, now I'm not Tibetan so I've probably destroyed the pronunciation. If you do that chant, it encourages you to do an out breath of around 5 seconds and an in breath of around 5 seconds. Om Mani Padme Hum. So it's actually quite hard to count and do the chant at the same time, but it's roughly 5 seconds. So just be mindful during your day-to-day activities. You'll find that you start shallow breathing and they won't be long 5-second breaths each. That's your normal go-to breath, or it should be, but it probably isn't. So if the optimal breath is 5 seconds out and 5 seconds in without a pause in between, it's just kind of cyclical, then it's worth noting that you can manipulate your physical and mental state by using different breathing tempos. So some will hype you up and some will calm you down, and then others will keep you level and calm. So I'll just describe 3 different breaths that can affect your state. So breath number 1 is the water breath. Water breathing. Use this style of breathing the majority of the time for more calm and balance. Breathe in through the nose for a count of 4 and out through the nose for a count of 4, and then repeat. Next we have the whiskey breath. Designed to relax and stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, you can use this technique to help you fall asleep. Breathe in through the nose for a count of 4 and out through the nose for a count of 8. So we're breathing out more than we're breathing in, and that's going to relax us and calm us down and help us fall asleep. So that's in for a count of 4 and out for a count of 8. I can already feel that I'm calmer because of that, so yeah, that will really slow you down. And then finally, coffee breathing. So coffee breathing does have a Sanskrit, I think it's Sanskrit or yogic name, Kapalabhati, probably ruined that pronunciation, or the breath of fire. These are short, sharp exhales used first thing in the morning or before a workout to increase energy and alertness. Take a deep inhale through your nose, exhale forcibly through your nose, contract your abdominal muscles to forcefully expel the air from your lungs. Imagine your belly button drawing in towards your spine. This should sound and feel like a sneeze. Allow your inhale to happen naturally without force or effort. The emphasis should be on the forceful exhale. This is also called reverse breathing, because you're focusing on the exhale, not the inhale. Continue this pattern of forceful exhales and passive inhales. Perform 3 rounds of 30 breaths. After completing 3 rounds, take a few deep breaths and observe any sensations in your body. You will feel energized and alert. So then there are a couple of other breathing techniques that I want to mention. You've got Tumo, which is what Wim Hof promotes. So that's kind of a hyperventilation. That's a deep inhalation, full exhalation, really overemphasizing the breath. You've got the box breath, which is one that I like to use in bed. So this is in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, out for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds. So it's kind of like a box. So I'll try and demonstrate. So I hope that helps. Another technique that Andrew Huberman promotes is cyclical sighing. It's an inhalation through the nose, then a pause, another inhalation through the nose, and an exhale. So it looks like this. Now 2 or 3 of those, and that just sorts out any mental fog. I need to start implementing these more actually. Just doing them now, it just shows how effective they are. So then finally on breathwork, I heard Laird Hamilton, who is a professional big wave surfer, because he's massive on breathwork and heat therapy and things like that. Very healthy guy. Him and Paul Chek are like good friends, I think. And he says cardiovascular exercise is just forced breathwork. So when you go for a run, you're forced to do breath work, exhale and inhale in a certain way. And he said you can get the same response. So you could literally go for a run for a mile, or somebody else could just sit and do breath work in the same way. As long as their breathing pattern's the same and is as kind of given as much exertion, you'll get the same benefit. So I just found that interesting. It's a weird concept that I hadn't really thought of. Number 5, breathing less actually provides your body with more oxygen. Being in a slight oxygen debt actually provides the body with more oxygen due to how the presence of carbon dioxide regulates oxygen in the blood. So this point didn't make much sense to me, and I still can't really get my head around it. But apparently the concentration of carbon dioxide in your blood is what your body is looking for to regulate how much oxygen it puts in the blood. So if you've got higher levels of carbon dioxide, it's going to force more oxygen into the blood. So if you mouth breathe heavily, you're elevating the amount of oxygen in your blood, and your brain will kind of say, well, we don't need more oxygen. So it will restrict the amount of oxygen you're getting. So this is why nose breathing is good, because you're breathing through a smaller hole essentially, and you're giving your body less oxygen, and that means it will give more oxygen into the blood. Like I say, it doesn't make much sense, but that's what the science says. And I'm not a scientist, I just follow what these people say. So then this leads us on to number 6, which is, the point in the book was breathe light to breathe right. So we tend to think if we just gasp for loads of air, that's going to be breathing better. But that's not the case. And there's a quote, I can't remember what the quote was, but I think one of the authors quotes a monk that says, it might be Thich Nhat Hanh actually, he said you want to breathe through your nose in a way that your nose hairs don't even move. So you can breathe deep, but breathe light. So the phrase is breathe light to breathe right. So try and breathe through your nose deep, so you're getting a deep inhalation. So that's a full belly inhale, but you're trying to breathe as if none of your nose hairs are moving. So you can still breathe lightly and deep at the same time. And with this point, you want to make sure you're breathing deep fully into your diaphragm. You don't want to be breathing into your neck or your chest. It wants to be down, full belly breaths. And that's where the power is going to be. So you want to bring your breath right down. And that requires good posture to do that. So if you're sat at an office or you're driving all day, you're crunching, you're sitting on your diaphragm and you're compressing the diaphragm. Whereas if you stand up straight, you can get full belly inhales. And then number 7, implement breath work, more aggressive breath work at some times. So that's hyperventilation and hypoventilation. Hyperventilation is erratic, excessive breathing, and hypoventilation is underbreathing or breath holding. So I believe this works because it's a form of hormetic stress. Hormetic stress refers to a phenomenon where exposure to low or moderate levels of stressors can actually improve an organism's resilience and health. So by breathing excessively, getting too much carbon dioxide in the body or not enough oxygen in the body, creating oxygen debt, you're going to force the body to become more resourceful with the oxygen it has. So this is going to improve your health. So you don't need to do this all the time. The majority of the time you're just going to be breathing fully into your belly, 4 or 5 seconds inhalation, and then 4 or 5 seconds on the exhalation. And then number 8, I've got a bonus tip which was in one of these books, and that was a nose unblocking exercise. And this works incredibly well, and I've told a couple of friends about this and it's worked for them. If you've got a cold or your nose is blocked for any reason, that could be hay fever or whatever it is, that can be really annoying, and that forces you to mouth breathe, and it also affects your sleep. It's often quite hard to sleep when you've got a stuffy nose. So this is the technique on how to block it, and it works every time that I need it. Even say you've been like crying or you're very emotional, you just get a snotty nose and you can't breathe. It doesn't matter. It's not like this is just to alleviate symptoms of certain illnesses. This is just, it will unblock your nose, and there's a very obvious reason why. So the technique is you breathe normally, then you exhale all the oxygen in your lungs, and you kind of like lean forward and push the air out until you've got no air in your system, and you hold your breath. You hold your breath for as long as you possibly can, and you'll start feeling the oxygen debt build up, and you'll get like reflexes in your stomach and your diaphragm that really want to breathe. So don't push yourself too far with this, but go as far as you possibly can. And then either inhale through your mouth or nose, it doesn't matter. I would recommend inhaling through your nose. And then go again, breathe normally for a bit, recuperate, like get back to normal. And then exhale fully, hold your breath for as long as you can, feel that oxygen debt. And you'll even feel like tubes in your nose and throat start draining whatever was blocking your nose. And there's a very obvious reason for this. Your body knows you will die if you don't breathe. Now, if you've said to it, I'm not gonna mouth breathe, it's only got one option, and you can even like hold your lips together for this. It's only got one option, which is to nose breathe, and it's going to do whatever it can to breathe through the nose. So that will just drain anything that's blocking your nose. So you then you let that oxygen debt build up, and your body will start to panic. Everything will clear, And then you can either mouth breathe or just wait, mouth breathe and then do it a couple of times, and then you'll be able to nose breathe and it will be unblocked. And then whenever it blocks up again, you just do the same thing. So that works ridiculously well. I was surprised how well that works. That's how to breathe. So the majority of the time you're going to want to be nose breathing and just breathing in for 4 seconds, 4 or 5 seconds, and out for 4 or 5 seconds. And this is cyclical. You're not pausing or holding anything. It's very natural. You're breathing light but deep, and that will create a nice calm, peaceful state all throughout your day. And that's your go-to. So there's a level of mindfulness that we need to attach to this as well, because naturally our stressful environment and our fast-paced life doesn't lend itself to this. If you was living out here in the woods and all you had to do was, you know, start your fire, because it would be a slow pace out here. We've got a lot to do in modern society. Then you're grounded into the earth anyway. You're barefoot on the ground, you're exposed to sunlight, and you'd be breathing deep and slowly. But that's not the case with modern life. So mindfulness comes in and observe. I do this all the time. I'm shallow breathing. I'm breathing from the neck and the chest. So you just have to consciously bring it back down into belly breathing. Breathing light to breathe right through the nose. And do that throughout the day. Multiple times you'll notice this. And just the more and more you do it, and nose breathing at night with the micropore tape will transition over to daytime as well. And at a certain point you'll just naturally find yourself that you've got your mouth closed. You know you're mouth breathing if you're walking around with your mouth open. So your normal walking around daily activity posture should be teeth together, tongue on the roof of the mouth, nose breathing. This will also change the shape of your jaw. So a lot of us nowadays, I'm like this, and I notice it in a lot of people, our chins are kind of disappearing. Our chins go back here, and that's because, one, the foods we're eating aren't as tough as they used to be. They're all very mushy foods. And two, our mouth posture isn't very good. So tongue on the roof of the mouth, teeth together will improve the bone structure of your jaw. So that's how to breathe. I hope that helps. And in tomorrow's video, we're going to talk about gratitude. Have a good day. See you tomorrow.